say something about where they find themselves at the moment in their station in life and what it is that they want to give themselves to for the next number of years in business.
Okay, so I'm fortunate to have just, I started Tree of Life and SARD in 2006-07. Very fortunate to have just handed over the CEO position at SARD to Johan Snyman here. So I'm a man at leisure now. I'm loving what I'm doing, so I'm continuing to do it. There's two things I want to focus on, Peter. The one is the intentional mobilization of capital for kingdom purposes, explicitly kingdom purposes. And the second is collaboration between entities that are already doing good work, like in South Africa, but to just collaborate better so we can get more done.
Yeah, we spent many years entrepreneuring, which has been great fun. My wife and I have just felt that it's time for us to focus on our non-profits, her orphanage, and our evangelism and distribution of Bibles. And then my personal vision has been Tabasco in gin, which for me, the acronym is the spiciness of Tabasco with my family, associates, partners, and the gin obviously is the acronym Generosity, Integrity, and Network, without abusing any of those things amongst friends and family.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys, and thank you for joining us this morning. So I want to start off with framing our conversation in the context of that redemptive frame that Rory put up there for us. As with all things, God has a design for partnership, whether in marriage, in business, in investment, in the relationship between investors and entrepreneurs. And that design would reflect his nature and character in the world. However, as we know, sin has distorted, as with all things, our view of partnership. And so we often see people fight to get the most for themselves, to get the best deal, maybe to rather go it alone. And Paul, in Philippians 2, verse 3 and 4, beautifully challenges us around this. He says, "Do nothing from selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you not only look to his own interests, but also to the interests of others." And so as God's redemptive agents in the world, he's called us to invite the Spirit to reveal in us a reimagined, redemptive view of what partnerships could look like and to live that out, even if it sometimes requires sacrifice. In this world, we want to build partnership as these people that bring glory to God and bring the kingdom into relationships in our businesses and into our broader society. And so with that framing, I'm going to kick us off with this discussion. And I'm going to ask Johan firstly. Johan, as a business person, I know you've always had an incredible belief in the power of partnership and what it can unlock, the beauty and the opportunity that it can unlock. Why don't you start us off and tell us what birthed that real belief of partnership and the value of partnership in you, and what the impact has been in your business journey?
Yeah, I mean, Peter, you quipped the other day to say that we've set up Tree of Life in a way that it would be very unsuccessful if we couldn't partner, and I reflected on that, and I think it's actually true. And then as you were speaking now, I reflected on it, and I think about myself, and I think, that is probably true of me as well. I don't have anything specific in life that is extraordinary. I don't have a background that is extraordinary. I don't have any specific talents. So as an individual, it was always true of me that if I don't partner with people that are extraordinary, I won't see extraordinary things happen. So I think it's part of my identity to some extent. Professionally, when I was a turnaround CEO, I started in healthcare and then came to financial services. And financial services intrigued me for that reason, that financial services, if you think about it, allows you to do things collectively that you cannot do individually. And a great example is life insurance, right? If you're not able to make sure that if you die today, that your family would be well off, well, you can collectively contribute to a life insurance company and life at an affordable premium, and that life insurance company will pay a lump sum payment to your family if you were to pass away. So collectively, by thousands of people contributing something, you can achieve an outcome that none on their own could have achieved. Same is true with building an airport. You can't build an airport on your own, but you can join an infrastructure fund that can. So it just awakened in me the value of collective doing. And as Christians, I think when we tend to almost think differently sometimes about our mainstream investment activities and then our redemptive investment activities. And mainstream, and not even Christians in general, people about their charitable activities and their non-charitable activities. And very, very open to partnering on the non-charitable side. I get a good financial advisor. I go into products that have been vetted, run by good fund managers. I do things collectively. I ask myself, why are we so individualistic often on the more charitable side? Is it because we feel that there's some revelation that we're only going to get in isolation? Is it because we want a little bit more credit from people or from God? Or what is it that makes us more individualistic on that side? And I've been just the last two things I'll say. Conceptually, we should actually find it so easy to partner on the side of redemptive. Because why? Because we have an eternal perspective, right? And you know that you're just visiting this planet for a short bit, right? And things are going to have to happen before you come, and things are going to have to happen after you've left. And so if you don't collaborate, then what? So eternal perspective should help us. The other thing that we should always remember is there are only two market shares, right? There's only two companies. The one is light and the other is darkness. So if you have the shareholder that's the light, then we all have the same shareholder. Then there's really no reason not to collaborate.
Excuse me. Johan, you talk about individualism. I mean, we live in a culture where individualism is so rife. I mean, and so Darin, if I think of your journey as a founder entrepreneur, founders can easily have that strong individualistic type of bent, but actually as a founder and a builder of businesses, it's not something you can do with an individualism, sense of individuality. You need partners on the journey. If you're individualistic and transactional, you won't build something that lasts. I mean, you've built a number of businesses. How has that looked for you, partnering, even as a founder of your own business, partnering with others on this journey?
Peter, it's difficult to partner, Peter. I mean, unless there's a whole group of us are angels, I mean, it's hard to actually love the Lord and then engage in partnership and then make courageous decisions when you agree or disagree, and also to be able to be open to learn from each other, especially as an entrepreneur. But if I look back, Peter, on my last 40 years, and I think maybe there's been 3 out of 40 companies that I haven't had the privilege to partner, every one of them has been the most incredible privilege to walk through. And there's been so much growth for myself as a personal a marketplace person and a believer of our King, learning all the time. And so I'm a standard grade guy. I went to varsity and failed everything. But if I look at the amazing people that God has put around me and allowed me to have such an exciting time of ups and downs, mostly ups, thank God. It's beautiful to be able to glean off each other and be challenged all the time to recheck your heart on humility and then revert back to that which is what Rory was saying, really look at the results thereof and to be able to be honest with each other. You know, is there fruit? Isn't there fruit? Are we being pruned? Aren't we being pruned? Is it time to move sideways and exit relationships? And is it time to engage in other ones? Because God loves us both. And what is our strength of character to move forwards, Peter, on that? And I find that I'm finding, and that's because of my life, that we're too sensitive. I mean, we love each other. We're going to be in heaven forever. You know, it's not like God's going to announce and welcome me in as a great dressmaker. Stand back, angels, look at this guy. Did he make a dress? Or look at Johan. Gee, you must see the life covers and the tree of life. You're just going to, here's my child. Look at how many people I was able to touch through his life. So partnership for me in the short journey, which Johan's already mentioned, is essential that we keep it glorifying God in every area we do, which is hard. But we got to be able to want to engage in each other because there's so many different giftings, and we got to challenge those hard discussions. So I absolutely love partnerships, and I'm growing all the time in it.
It is humbling being in a partner relationship because it's dynamic and it changes, and yeah, you continuously need to grow and, dare I say, need to have a certain level of willingness to sacrifice in order to achieve something that's greater than what any of you could do on your own.
Yeah, and a lot of the time we think we're right. You know, and our partner's going to tell you straight, no, you're not right. You know, so that growth can't just happen at home cell on Sundays.
Yeah.
You know, it's got to happen all the
Shaped in
time,
furnace.
Chris, doesn't it?
So when you think of partnering with someone, like in a couple of sentences, sort of what's the key thing you look for in a partner, and sort of what's the big red flag that you would look out for, Johan? I'd love to hear from you as well, Darin.
Look, I mean, it's context is everything, and the way you look at life is everything, right? So, I mean, if it's a continuum, and on the one end you have a type of individual that says, okay, this is a great movie, life is a great movie, I'm the main actor, right? This movie is really about me and the outcomes, and there's a lot of interesting guys around me and a lot of partnerships, but it's about, in the end, it's about the hero that I am in this movie. And then on the other side of the continuum, on the extreme, you have someone that says, this is a movie about God. I'm so privileged to be invited to be a supporting actor in this movie. Now, obviously, there's very few on either side of the continuum completely, but the red zone is that side where it's about the individual. And I remember this, Peter, from when I met you way back, 2009, and the Mercon group. You know, I always said what struck me about the group is that it's not about them, you know, and to partner with people where it's not about them is really a joy, and it's easy. You still have your challenges, but that is the number one flag for me.
How about you?
From my side, it's faithfulness and honesty. You know, I don't, for me, what I've been through, Peter, is I don't mind how qualified you are because we can all learn. But if you're faithful and honest, it's a go. Because I know that whatever doesn't work this time around will work next time around because you've expressed and shown me faithfulness and honesty. And my red flag is a dishonest comment or a little lie or a little, you know, it'll work itself out. Don't worry. I know I said that, but that's a red flag straight away, which I deem back at unfaithfulness. So those two things are key for me. I'd rather leave shares, money, which I've done, on the table and walk away.
Yeah, I think for me, it's to get a sense that we're in this together, and when we succeed, we'll succeed together. But if you pick up something where someone said recently about a deal that they were negotiating, he said, we haven't even done the deal, and this guy's already trying to make money from me rather than with me. And I think that's a red flag when you're in a relationship and there's a sense that your focus is on trying to get something for yourself rather than trying to build something together and succeed together. So, Johan, any partnership is like a relationship. It's a journey. Years ago at Nation Builder, we did a whole thing on comparing it to a Zulu wedding with all the different phases of it. There's the start, the entry, the journey in partnership, and then eventually exits and endings that it can end. And so the question I have for you is, what are the things when you're entering into a partnership that you need to look out for? There's so many partnerships where there's been good stories and bad stories. And I think a lot of the time you can trace it back to those seeds back to where it started, the conversations that were had and that weren't had.
Yeah, and I think we're vulnerable as a faith community, because sometimes we think that because we have a shared faith, it means that we don't need to do some other stuff that you would normally do. And that is one mistake I've made too often. It's that. So give an example, right? I mean, you're used to the fact that when you go into a partnership, you clarify your expectations, you unpack what you understand from it. But now, I mean, I'm doing it with Darin, right? So we're both Christians. So we have a shared vocabulary, and we use that vocabulary, and then we think we mean the same thing, so we don't unpack it. So we're talking about a chair. I'm very happy. We're talking about a chair. He's talking about a chair. I'm talking about a chair. We do the deal. It's great. We've done a deal on a chair. Now, post-transaction, I found out, I was thinking about a bar stool, and he was thinking about a lazy boy, But we never did that part, So I think that the thing is that we just sometimes skimp over things because we are brothers in Christ, and we actually should be more diligent to protect the relationship. We shouldn't shy away from it and unpack it completely. So, expectations. God doesn't change your personality when He saves you. We still are diverse in terms of personality types. We're extroverts, introverts. We have different risk appetites. We have different expectations. We have different views on debt. We have different views on whatever. If we skimp over that because we're Christian and we're brothers, then I don't think we set ourselves up for misunderstanding and failure.
So Johan, just maybe a follow-up question. So what do you aim for in setting up a partnership? Is it equitability? Is it, do you accept that things are not always going to be equitable, because there's power dynamics involved in, let's take, for example, if you're investing in a new business, you've got certain power because you bring capital, you've got the entrepreneur, and if you get that wrong, you could actually set up the partnership for disaster down the road because one person used the power they had in that moment to get more at that point of entering into a partnership.
Yeah, I think that's right. But I think we need to distinguish between how we treat people and view each other and what the roles are. Because roles are roles, right? I mean, you got to know in a certain situation who needs to make the final call here? If we don't come to an agreement, who needs to make the final call, for instance? And I think sometimes we confuse the power aspect with the role clarification aspect, and we need to confront those issues up front as well. Say, look, if we run out of capital, are you able to put in more capital? If not, are you willing to dilute? That doesn't mean that you now imply that someone else is weaker or what, but you need to talk about. You need to clarify it up front. Otherwise, you reach that situation, and then people may interpret it as if it's now a power play because one can put in capital and the other can't. But it's just the reality. I mean, it's just, I often hear people talk about marriage and compare that to a business partnership. And I don't want to be unspiritual, but for me, there is a conditionality in partnerships, which there isn't in marriage. It's unconditional. You've made this commitment. It's a merger, right? You can't unscramble it. You've got to make it work. And you've got to, it's a higher level. A partnership is on a values base, definitely like a marriage. But there's conditionality. Like if you said you were going to do A, B, and C, and you don't do A, B, and C, then we've got a problem in this partnership and it may not work.
Very good. So entering into a partnership is one thing and having those conversations up front, but staying in partnership is often also even more difficult or more challenging, can be more challenging because, circumstances change, the premises on which we started out can change, and relative views of our contribution to this partnership change. For example, when you're a good example for us is renegotiating incentives with management. At the start, when the business is not making money, there's a lot of power sitting in the hands of the investor, and then down the line, management feels the business is doing well, and now they want to rebalance the scales almost, And so, Darin, staying in partnership, what are some of your experiences around that, and what do you see as some of the challenges and why we sometimes fail to stay in partnership, even between like-minded, values-aligned people?
Yeah, Peter, I think that example about the chair, I love. Johan mentioned the other day. It's just so true. I have found myself spending so much time thanking the Lord and praising God, but not getting to the detail in that partnership. Yes, we talk we like each other. I love your idea. Let's have a go. But then the depth of structure is wavering. And so the consequences are a difficult breakup or a difficult partnership. And it costs everybody. It costs not only the partners, it costs the employees, it costs the business, it costs the product, it costs the whole redemptive story, it costs families around that, and it affects actually other brothers and sisters. I have done some things in certain circumstances years back that I've not been proud of, Peter. And when I look back and I've seen the effects that's had on my other brothers and sisters, I've just gently repented to my King, our King, and said, Lord, please teach me to never do that again. And so I think the depth of how we set expectation and structure and plan and lanes is paramount. But we get this FOMO thing that you got it, you got the idea, God's given it to you, you're anointed, I love the way you praise God, let's go. Write the check, and that ends up the last thing in the process that is actually important. And you end up hurting each other. And so when I look at some examples where I've had to challenge myself back, because there's a few things in partnership. One is we're called now, and we engage, and we set the parameters right, and we hold ourselves accountable, and we walk in truth, and we keep referencing back to what the Holy Spirit is saying, what our King is advising and directing us on what to do. And as we get fat and excited, which Rory spoke about earlier, and we start to see Deuteronomy play out, where it's talking about the one sends 1,000 to flight and two sends 10,000 to flight, and we miss that only because we're not referencing back, Peter, to what is God's plan. And suddenly, as the rock of our salvation, we're now looking at we're the heroes, and we've got this right. And so partnerships have to keep going back to what is God saying. And sometimes the response back is it's time out. So it's courage to stay in partnership, but you've got to be courageous to call the truth, Peter, and say, this is what I feel, and I don't know why, but I need to help this plan touch down and exit. God still blesses both of us because we're his children. So I find that we as kingdom men and women, I've been challenged over the last 5 years that we lack courage, Peter. We've got to, for both sides, fight on or exit and realign ourselves to where is the fruit and where are we. And we should be excited always. It's only 100 years, Peter, and then the game's up. So we want to make sure that we're doing everything at the right time, at the right season, and we must be able to be honest with each other and say, this is where we are. This is where I don't think we are. What do you think? I love you, man. But something is now time to change. So, I mean, we had one person as well who was a great partnership, and I caught him stealing after 12 years of business. And it was time to charge him and send him to jail. As a believer, that was my fury and my anger. But then God spoke to me and my wife and said, I'm going to restore him and you're going to step back because let me show you how much wrong you've done and I've forgiven you. And my partners allowed me the privilege to help that partner be restored. And God touched him and built him. And we had to still pay him, which freaked me out. But the reality is, are we going to listen to what God says and enjoy the next ride? Or are we going to just continue building on what man is telling us around us? So that, and it should be, Peter, it should be extreme fun, the high and the low.
That's true, but I must say, in my own personal experience, whether it's in business exits or in partnerships ending, that is really tough to do well. I mean, we could have had a great journey and then we just ended just don't get that right. And then often relationships get hurt. And so, both of you, what sort of advice do you have in terms of ending well? And where do we get it wrong sometimes?
I'm on. No, well, I mean, I don't have much to offer here. I think the basics is always what saves you, right? I mean, honesty, on the long run, you can camouflage the truth, you can hide the truth, but on the long run, the truth emerges. So the sooner that you embrace the truth, and the truth will ultimately be the reconciliation between parties that have disagreed, because ultimately, the truth has a way of making a comeback and for everyone to see it and to reconcile. So if in the process you make sure that your heart doesn't, guard your heart is what Proverbs says, right? So if you make sure that you guard your heart and you don't go to judgment and you don't go to attributing something to the other party, but you go to the facts and the truth as you see it and stick with that in love, then the hurt goes away. The places where the hurt doesn't go away is where you haven't guarded your heart. And it is more difficult. I mean, I've gone through one situation in my life way back in 2012, and I never thought it would happen to me, that I just couldn't come to actually forgive my brother for not doing what he said he was supposed to do. And for just saying, well, take me to court, And I knew intuitively what I had to do, right? It was, I just need to forgive him. I need to walk away. I need to forget about the money. It's not even my money. I'm just stewarding God's money. But I think it took me 4 years. And so sometimes God has a way of elevating the game on you, where you think, I can do this game. I can do it with my eyes closed. I've forgiven so many times I've walked away, and then suddenly this one comes, and you think, just why am I not able to do this? But he's actually preparing you for something else already. So it is. Sometimes it will be difficult. We need to tell that to each other and say, it's not just you blink twice and you've done it. Sometimes it's going to take a lot more than you envisage.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the time it's not about us. That maybe we're there. I love the example earlier about that Moses was put in Pharaoh's court, but ultimately in the end led Israel out. And so we can be put in partnerships, not really for us, but a lot of the time for us. And we've got to read the season, Peter. And we've got to trust God that we are reading it right. And I have a partner here that we just parted ways recently. My first attempt at parting ways, and he's an incredible partnership. My first reason of trying to engage to part ways was so bad that my wife said, "Who are you talking to?" I said, "It's got none of your business." I was so angry. I had to phone and apologize to those partners. But a year later, God set it correctly, and both hearts were right. And we were able to part ways, glorifying our King and blessing both of us. And so, I mean, the parting ways, the disappointment, and what we hold on to, in the end, if we've heard God, of which we do, and if we seek counsel, and if we walk in humility, I think our King is just so gracious and kind to us, and that we can just move on, watch them move on to incredible things, and watch us be blessed by whatever we sowed into them and wherever God takes us.
Beautiful. Thanks, guys, for sharing, both of you, that. Maybe if we can, last question, if we can broaden the conversation a little bit. I mean, all of us here together, we're sort of an ecosystem, and we all share the same heart, the same values, and the same heart for having a redemptive impact. And what opportunities, Johan, do you see? What excites you when you look at what's happening in this faith-driven ecosystem, this redemptive ecosystem that we're part of? And yeah, what do you see that could be unlocked potentially? Just one or two thoughts.
Yeah, Peter, if I reflect on the turnaround days, I mean, I always say that everyone in the company has their own picture in their top pocket of what they think this company should achieve. So you work in a company, it's not going well, you want to turn around. But in the end, everyone has a picture of what they think this company should achieve. And then if you can find an overarching, bigger vision that's so attractive that people are ultimately willing to say, you know what, I'll take my own picture out of my top pocket and I'll tear it up because I want that one. I want that other one. I want the bigger one. So we have that, right? We can dream about and think about and challenge ourselves about the stuff that Rory's talking about, imagining a big turnaround of a country of 65 million people. That is so compelling that I think it would empower us all to be able to tear up our own little pictures of what we think we should be doing and then leveraging that. And that's what I think we should be dreaming about.
Yeah. Terry, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just think that the incredible opportunity to work together with so much gifting in the body of Christ amongst us. If you just took 10 people in this room and we were able to let each other work in each other's lanes, there's just nothing that can stop us together. And that we value working together way more than anything else. Because I think God just will, it's already happening. We've seen that together is so much easier and so much better and so much more. You cry together, you celebrate together, and I think that it's untapped. I think we limit it, we hinder ourselves, but we've seen it, cracks happening and breakthroughs happening, and then bigger visions are coming, which means you're never going to be able to do it on your own anyway, and that we should be open-handed and free. Give the guys clawbacks if they want. You can add all those other things in so the entrepreneur is free and not bound in. Allow him to explode in his family, to walk in an incredible inheritance while you get tagged along and you can invest in advice and a little bit of money and other areas. So I'm excited as I see God unlocking strange partnerships and unusual new seasons. And I think we should have our eyes open and we should be excited and we should be grabbing hold of those things and just watching our King do his thing.
Yeah, great. I think if I look at this, this group of people, the opportunities for doing some of what Rory challenged us is so incredible. No big change ever happens without starting with a small group of people. And we're a small group of people with a massive challenge in our country. And so, yeah, I just think it's an incredible opportunity. And the thought that sort of struck me for this week at the Forge conference yesterday and today is, when we think of who God has called us to love and journey with, we think of our entrepreneurs, we think of our investors, but we don't often think about our peers in our ecosystem, our peer investors, our peer fund managers. How do we love our peers in a way that their success becomes our success and that we for each other? And there's that saying, a rising tide lifts all ships, that we all grow and succeed and enter into greater freedom as the people alongside us, the co-investors alongside us succeed.